Megan thought she was losing her mind. Things were disappearing from the house. Keys, jewelry, important documents. Everything disappeared without explanation. Her husband said it was all in her head, that she was too stressed. Friends started to see things differently. The doctor suggested psychological help, but something didn't make sense. When she learned the truth, she realized the problem wasn't her memory at all. It was something much darker. It's dangerous. There are things in life that we never imagine will happen to us. We see them in movies, read them on the news, hear other people's stories, and think, that will never happen to me. But the truth is, some of the worst things happen right under our noses, in our own homes, to the people we trust most. Megan was 34 years old and had a seemingly normal life. She'd been married to Greg for 7 years, had a comfortable home in a quiet neighborhood, worked as a school teacher, and had friends. From the outside, everything seemed perfect. But inside, something was happening. Something she couldn't explain. Something that made her question her own sanity. It started slowly, little things disappearing here and there. A key she was sure she'd left on the table, an earring that disappeared from her jewelry box, documents she'd been looking for but couldn't find. At first, she thought it was just distraction, tiredness from work, but it got worse. Things disappeared more frequently, and when she asked Greg, he always had the same answer. It was all in her head. The worst part wasn't losing things. The worst part was starting to doubt herself. It was waking up every day wondering if she was going crazy. It was seeing her husband looking at her with that expression of false concern, telling her she needed rest, that she was too stressed. It was feeling like she was losing control of her own mind. But Megan didn't know she was being victimized by something far more cruel than oblivion. She was being manipulated, and when she discovered the truth, nothing would ever be the same again. Before we continue, tell me one thing. What city and country are you watching from? Leave a comment. I'd love to know where you're from. It all started on a normal Tuesday in March. Megan was getting ready for work when she noticed her car keys weren't on the hook near the door, where she always left them. She stopped, frowning, and looked around. Nothing. She checked her purse, her coat pockets, the kitchen table. The keys simply weren't there. "Greg, have you seen my keys?" she called from the hallway. Greg emerged from the kitchen with a mug of coffee in his hand, still in his pajamas. He worked from home as a programmer and had more flexible hours. "Your keys? No, love. Didn't you leave them on the hook like always?" "I left it last night when I arrived. I'm sure of it." He shrugged. "I must have put it somewhere else without realizing it." "Have you looked in the room?" Megan went to her bedroom, rummaged through the drawers, looked under the bed, and checked the bathroom. Nothing. She returned to the living room, frustrated. She was late. Greg was sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone. "Found it?" he asked without looking up. "No, that doesn't make sense. I always leave it in the same place." "Megan, you've been a little distracted lately. You must have left it somewhere and forgotten." He finally looked at her and smiled. "Relax. I'll take you to work. Then we'll look for it calmly." She accepted the ride, but the discomfort remained. That feeling that something wasn't right. Later, when she returned home, the keys were on the hook, exactly where she always left them. "Greg, were the keys there the whole time?" she asked, confused. "I found it on the kitchen counter." "Love, you must have left it there without realizing." But Megan was sure she'd looked in the kitchen. She'd looked at the counter. She was sure. Had she really been that distracted? 2 weeks later, it was the earrings. A pair of pearl earrings her mother had given her for her birthday. Megan kept them carefully in a small box in her jewelry box. When she went looking for them to wear to a dinner party, she only had one. The other was gone. She tore the entire room apart. She looked under the furniture, in the bathroom, in the drawers. Nothing. It was impossible. She always put the pair together in the box. Always. "Greg, did you touch my earrings?" "In your earrings? Of course not. Megan, why would I go through your things? It's just that one is missing. The pearl earring my mother gave me. I always keep them together." He stopped what he was doing and came over to her. He placed his hands on her shoulders and looked into her eyes with that worried expression. "Honey, you're really tired. Maybe you put it away somewhere else, or maybe it fell somewhere. We'll look for it calmly this weekend, okay?" But the earring never appeared, and soon after, it was time for important documents. Megan was looking for her passport because it needed to be renewed. She kept all her documents in a special folder in her office drawer. Her passport was missing. She rummaged through the entire drawer. She took out everything, looked through paper after paper. Nothing. Her heart raced. How could a passport disappear? She hadn't taken it from there. She was absolutely certain. "Greg!" she called, feeling panic rising. "My passport is gone!" He came to the office, looked at the mess she had made. "Calm down, Megan. Let's look together." They searched for an hour. In every drawer, in every cabinet, everywhere they could, the passport was nowhere to be found. Megan felt tears well up. It wasn't possible. It didn't make any sense. "Honey, sit here." Greg guided her to the couch. "You've been really stressed with work. You've got a lot on your mind. It's normal to be forgetful when you're overwhelmed." "But I didn't take the passport out of the drawer, Greg, I'm sure. Sometimes we do things automatically and don't remember. It happens to everyone. Don't torture yourself like that." Megan wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe it was just stress, just tiredness. But deep down, a small voice inside her told her something was wrong. She wasn't that distracted. She'd always been organized, careful with her things. But maybe he was right. Maybe she really was overwhelmed. Maybe her memory was failing. The thought was terrifying. It made her question everything. Was she losing control? Was she becoming like her aunt, who developed early-onset Alzheimer's? She looked at Greg, who was holding her hand tenderly, and tried to calm herself. He was there, trying to help. Maybe she just needed to rest. Maybe it was all in her head. But things kept disappearing. And the more they disappeared, the more Megan began to doubt herself. The confidence she'd always had in her own mind was starting to crack like thin glass. And the worst was yet to come. How many times have you felt like you were going crazy because no one believed in you? Leave your feedback in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel using the subscribe button or the QR code that appears on your screen, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any exciting stories like this. The following weeks were like living a waking nightmare. Things didn't just disappear, they reappeared in the strangest places. The TV remote Megan had been searching for days appeared inside the refrigerator, behind the water bottles. She stood in front of the open fridge, staring at it, unable to process it. How? Why would she put the remote inside the refrigerator? "Greg, look at this." She showed him the remote, her voice shaking. It was in the fridge. He looked at her, gave a light laugh, and shook his head. "Honey, you're working too hard. That's a clear sign of mental overload. My mom used to do things like that when she was stressed. One time she put her phone in the cookware cupboard. But I don't remember doing that. That's exactly the problem. You're on autopilot. You do things without realizing it." He leaned in and gently touched her face. "You need to take a few days off. Rest. Your mental health is important." Megan felt a tightness in her chest. Maybe he was right. Maybe she really was losing control without realizing it. But the feeling that something was deeply wrong wouldn't go away. Days later, it was her wallet's turn. She'd left it in her purse before going to bed. In the morning, it was gone. She'd torn the house apart, arrived late for work, and spent the entire day nervous. When she returned home that night, the wallet was on top of her bed, right in the middle of her pillow. As if someone had purposely placed it there for her to see. Greg, the wallet was on the bed, right in the middle of the pillow. He was making coffee and didn't even turn to look. "You must have left it there this morning when you were looking. Sometimes we look so desperately that we don't see what's right in front of us. I made the bed in the morning. She wasn't there." He turned then, with that worried expression she was starting to hate. "Hey, Megan, are you sure you made the bed? Are you really sure? Because you've been so confused." Doubt struck hard. Had she made the bed? Had she? Suddenly, she couldn't remember clearly. Mornings were becoming a fog in her head. Everything was becoming blurry. I think so. Her voice was weak. Honey, listen. Greg put down his mug and came over to her, holding her hands. I'm worried about you. I really am. You need to rest more. Slow down. All this stress is taking a toll on you. You're not being yourself. Megan felt the tears come. I don't know what's happening to me. I know. It's tiredness. It's overload. You demand too much of yourself. It's always been like this. He hugged her. But I'm here. I'll take care of you. We'll get through this together, okay? She nodded against his chest, wanting to believe it, wanting it to be just that, just tiredness, just stress. But there was a small voice, deep inside, screaming that there was something more, something she couldn't see. At work, things started to get complicated. Megan forgot an important meeting, or so they said. She was sure she'd written it down in her calendar for Wednesday, but the meeting had been on Tuesday, or had it. She looked at her calendar and saw the note clearly marked for Tuesday, but she remembered writing Wednesday. She did, or didn't she? Her boss, Patricia, called her in for a chat. Megan, are you okay? You haven't been yourself these past few weeks. I know, sorry. I've been a bit distracted. It's more than distraction. You seem lost, confused. This isn't like you. Patricia looked at her with genuine concern. If you're going through something, you can talk to me. Megan wanted to tell him. She wanted to say that she felt like she was losing her mind, that things were disappearing and reappearing in impossible places, that she could no longer trust her own memory. But how could she explain this without sounding crazy? Just stress. She forced a smile. I'll get better, I promise. But it didn't get better. It got worse. Her friends started to notice too. At lunch with two classmates, Megan told a story about something that had happened over the weekend. They exchanged strange looks. Megan, you already told this story last week, and you told it differently. One of them, Lisa, said carefully. Did I tell you? I don't remember telling you. You did. And you said it happened last month, not over the weekend. Megan felt the ground drop out from under her feet. Was she telling repeated stories? Changing the facts? How could she not remember this? The worst part was when her mother called. Worried. Greg had spoken to her. He'd said Megan was very forgetful, very confused, and that he was concerned about her mental health. Her mother suggested she see a doctor, a neurologist maybe, or a psychiatrist. Mom, I don't need a psychiatrist. Daughter, there's nothing wrong with seeking help. Your father had an aunt who started having these symptoms at a young age. It's best to investigate. Megan hung up the phone and sat on the living room floor. Greg had talked to her mom. He'd told her about the forgetfulness. He'd worried her. And now everyone was going to look at her like she was broken, like she was losing her mind. Greg walked into the room and saw her there, sitting on the floor. Honey, what's wrong? Did you talk to my mother about me? He sighed. I'm worried, Megan. I just want you to get better. Your mom can help convince you to see a doctor. You had no right to do that. I have the right to take care of my wife when I see she needs help and doesn't want to accept it. His voice was calm, firm, as if he were the reasonable one, and she was the difficult one. And maybe he was being reasonable. Maybe she really was sick and didn't want to accept it. Maybe Greg was being the good husband, trying to take care of her while she resisted out of pride. But she felt like she was being pushed into a box. She felt isolated from everyone. With each passing day, she felt smaller, more confused, and more lost. The answer was closer than she thought. But first, she would need to find the strength to doubt the only person she still trusted, herself. It was one Friday night that Megan decided she needed to do something different. She was tired of feeling crazy, tired of doubting herself. If she really was becoming forgetful, she needed proof. She needed to document everything. So she bought a small notebook and began jotting down every detail of her routine. Friday, 10:30 p.m., car keys on the hook by the door, Purse on the kitchen table, wallet inside the purse, on the left side. She wrote everything down, every object, every place. And she started taking photos too. Photos of the keys on the hook, the purse on the table, the earrings in the jewelry box, everything recorded, everything documented. Greg thought it was strange when he saw her doing that. "What are you doing?" "Writing down where I leave my things. That way I won't forget." He gave her that understanding smile she was increasingly hating. "That's a bit extreme, don't you think? You don't have to do that." "Yes, I do. I need to know that I'm not going crazy." "No one's saying you're going crazy, Megan." His voice was too calm, too patient, like he was talking to a child. "It's just that you're stressed. This will only stress you out more." But she kept going. For a whole week, she wrote everything down. And that's when she started noticing the inconsistencies. On Monday, she'd noted that she'd left her sewing scissors in her bedroom drawer. She'd even taken a picture. On Tuesday morning, the scissors weren't there. She searched and found them in the bathroom cabinet. She looked at the photo on her phone. The scissors were clearly in the drawer. How had they ended up in the bathroom? He showed it to Greg. "Look at this. I photographed the scissors here, and now they're in the bathroom. I didn't touch them." He looked at the photo, looked at the scissors, and sighed. "Honey, you're obsessing over this. It's not healthy. You're constantly checking yourself, controlling yourself. That's no way to live. But explain how the scissors moved." "Megan, you live here. You move around the house. Sometimes you pick things up, use them, put them away. It's automatic. Everyone does it." He grabbed her shoulders. "This obsession is making everything worse. You need to stop. You need to relax." But how could she relax when the evidence was there? When the photos showed one thing and reality showed another, she felt like she was truly going crazy. But now she had evidence. She had a record. It wasn't just her memory. It was real. But no one believed her. When she showed her notes to her work friend, Sarah, during her break, the reaction was similar. "Megan, this is kind of intense. Are you writing down where you keep everything?" "It's to prove that I'm not forgetting. Things change places and I'm not me." Sarah chose her words carefully. "Honey, have you ever thought about talking to someone? A professional? Sometimes when we're really stressed, we get paranoid." "It's not paranoia. I have proof." But Sarah was already looking at her that way. That look of pity mixed with discomfort. As if Megan were a bomb about to explode and she didn't know how to handle it. The family found out about the notes. Greg told her mother, worried. Her mother called again. "Daughter, Greg told me you're writing down everything you do at home, photographing objects. That's not normal." "Mom, I'm just trying to understand what's going on." "What's happening is that you need help. Please go to the doctor. Do this for me." Even her younger sister, Katie, who lived in another state, called, "Megan, I'm worried about you. Everyone is. You're not okay." It was as if the whole world had turned against her. As if everyone had decided she was losing her mind and nothing she said or showed would make a difference. The evidence she had gathered, instead of proving her right, only made everyone think she was sicker. Greg started treating her differently too. More careful, kinder, but in a suffocating way. He checked to see if she'd taken her vitamins that morning. He asked if she'd slept well. He suggested she take a few days off work. He spoke to her slowly, explaining simple things as if she couldn't understand. "Honey, you put the milk in the refrigerator door, not on the shelf. Remember? The door. That's where we always keep the milk." She wanted to scream that she knew where he kept the milk, that she'd lived there for 7 years, that she wasn't stupid. But instead, he just nodded, because she was tired. Tired of fighting, tired of trying to prove she wasn't crazy, tired of feeling like she was alone against everyone. Friends began to drift away. Gradually, the invitations stopped. Messages became rarer. When she ran into someone she knew at the supermarket or on the street, the conversation was awkward and forced. People didn't know how to act around her. They treated her as if she were fragile, as if she might break at any moment. And maybe she really was going crazy. Because the more she tried to prove herself right, the more wrong she seemed. The more evidence she gathered, the more obsessed everyone thought she was. It was like being trapped in a maze where every attempt to escape only led her deeper. One night, she was sitting on her bedroom floor, surrounded by notes and printed photos, trying to find a pattern, trying to understand. Greg walked in and saw the scene. He said nothing. He just stood in the doorway, looking at her with an expression she couldn't decipher. Pity? Sadness? Or was it something else? "Come to sleep, love. It's late." She looked at him, at all those notes, at the evidence no one believed, and for the first time, a different question crossed her mind. What if it wasn't her who was messing with things? If it were someone else, it would be too absurd an idea. Who would do this? Why? She put away her notes and went to sleep, but the thought remained, planted, growing. And in the coming weeks, it would change everything. After so much pressure from her family, from Greg, from everyone telling her she needed to seek help, Megan finally gave in. Greg was thrilled when she agreed. Too thrilled, actually. He already had a doctor in mind. Dr. Harrison, a general practitioner a friend had recommended. He scheduled the appointment for the following week. "You'll see, love. He'll help you understand what's going on," Greg said as he drove to the office. "It could be something simple. Vitamins, hormones, we'll figure it out and fix it." Megan stared out the window without responding. She was nervous. Going to the doctor meant admitting that something was wrong with her, that maybe everyone was right and she really was getting sick. Dr. Harrison's office was in a modern building downtown. The waiting room smelled of a hospital, mixed with fresh coffee. Megan was nervous, fidgeting with her hands, while Greg sat next to her, flipping through a magazine. "It's going to be okay." He held her hand. "Dr. Harrison is very good. He'll help you understand what's going on." When they were called, Greg stood up with them. Megan looked at him in surprise. "Will you come in with me?" "Of course. I want to be by your side, support you." He smiled. "Besides, I can help the doctor understand better. Sometimes we don't notice things in ourselves that others see." It seemed reasonable. It seemed careful. So she let him in. Dr. Harrison was a man in his 50s, with graying hair and reading glasses hanging around his neck. He greeted them both and asked them to sit down. "So, Megan, tell me what's going on." She took a deep breath. "I've been so forgetful. Things disappear, and I don't remember where I put them. Sometimes they appear in strange places, and I don't remember putting them there. How long has this been going on?" "About 2 months, more or less." The doctor took notes. "Are you under a lot of stress? Changes in routine? Trouble sleeping?" "Work is hectic, and I sleep badly sometimes. I wake up in the middle of the night and keep thinking." "She's been really anxious," Greg chimed in. "I wake up and she's awake, just staring at the ceiling. And during the day, she's always distracted. Sometimes I talk to her and she doesn't even respond. She's in her own world." Megan turned to him. That wasn't true. Or was it? Was she really so lost in thought that she couldn't hear him when he spoke? "And there's more," Greg continued, his voice thick with concern. "She's been obsessed with writing everything down. She takes pictures of everything, writes down where she puts it. She spends hours doing this. I'm very worried." The way he said it made it sound like something sick, pathological. The doctor looked at Megan with that professional expression, but she saw something shift there. An assessment, a silent judgment. "Megan, are you taking these notes?" "Yes, but it's to try to understand what's going on, to make sure I'm not imagining things. And you think you're imagining it. I don't know anymore. Everyone says yes, that it's stress, that it's tiredness. But I feel like something's wrong." Dr. Harrison took more notes, lots of notes. "Do you have a history of anxiety? Depression? Any psychological problems in your family?" "No, I mean, one aunt had Alzheimer's, but she was older. My father-in-law had it too," Greg added. "It started with forgetfulness. She's very worried about it." "I see." The doctor took off his glasses and looked at Megan seriously. Look, given your age and the symptoms you described, I don't believe it's something serious neurological like Alzheimer's, but the symptoms of mental confusion, forgetfulness, and this need to control and document everything could indicate generalized anxiety, which could possibly develop into something more worrisome if left untreated. Megan felt her stomach tighten. Something more concerning like what? Obsessive-compulsive disorder, dissociative episodes, even the onset of psychosis if there's a lot of stress involved. He spoke slowly, calmly, but the words felt like punches. I'm not diagnosing any of that right now, but I think it's wise for you to get evaluated by a psychiatrist, someone who specializes in mental health. Psychiatrist. Her voice was weak. It's just to be sure. To rule out possibilities and, if necessary, start appropriate treatment. Medication can help a lot with anxiety and these symptoms of confusion. Megan looked at Greg. He had that expression of deep concern on his face, holding her hand tightly, as if she might fall apart at any moment. I'm going to order blood tests to check that there's nothing physically contributing. Sometimes thyroid problems can cause similar symptoms. And I'm going to refer you to a colleague of mine, Dr. Stevens. She's an excellent psychiatrist. You can talk to her and get a complete evaluation. Megan left the office in shock. Psychiatrist, psychotic. The words echoed in her head. Greg was being kind, attentive, opening the car door for her, adjusting her seatbelt as if she were incapable of doing it herself. Are you okay? He asked as he got into the car. I don't know. Look, I know it's scary. But it's good that we caught it early. It can be treated, it can get better. I'll be with you every step of the way, okay? You're not alone in this. His words were comforting, but there was something about them that made Megan feel smaller, weaker, more broken, like she was a repair project, something defective that needed to be fixed. That night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Greg slept soundly beside her. Psychiatrist. The word kept swirling in her head. Everyone would know. They would look at her differently. They would pity her, or worse, they would be afraid. She turned on her side and saw Greg sleeping peacefully, his breathing calm and even. And for the first time, a very strange thought crossed her mind. A thought she immediately tried to push away because it was absurd, impossible, insane. He'd accepted the idea of her illness too quickly. He'd seemed almost relieved when the doctor suggested the psychiatrist, as if it confirmed something he'd already expected, as if it was exactly what he wanted to hear. She shook her head. No, this was paranoia. She was seeing things that weren't there, suspecting her own husband, the man who was trying to care for her. But the thought remained, small, troubling, growing slowly in the shadows of her mind. And in the coming weeks, that thought would transform into something she never imagined possible, something that would change everything. That strange thought about Greg wouldn't leave Megan's mind. In the days that followed, she found herself observing him differently. The way he spoke, his movements around the house, the expressions on his face. She was searching for something, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything changed. Megan was sitting in the living room, alone, staring at the empty hook where her keys should have been. She had just put them there. She was absolutely certain. She had looked at the hook, seen the keys hanging there, and then gone to the bathroom for 2 minutes. When she returned, the keys were gone. Greg was in his office working. She could hear the sound of his keyboard typing. He hadn't left. Or had he? Had he left while she was in the bathroom? The house was small, so she could move around quietly if she wanted to. It was at that moment that the thought came to her, clear and sharp. If she really wanted to know what was happening, she needed proof no one could dispute. She needed to see it with her own eyes. She needed a camera. The next day, after Greg left for an in-person meeting with a client, Megan went to an electronics store and bought a small security camera, the kind that connects to Wi-Fi and records directly to your phone. It was discreet, the size of a matchbox, perfect for what she needed. He installed it in the living room, hidden on a high shelf among the books, pointed directly at the coffee table and sofa. No one would notice unless they were looking for it. He set up the app on his phone and tested it a few times to make sure it was recording. It worked perfectly. The guilt hit hard. She was spying on her own home, setting up hidden cameras as if she were investigating a crime. Maybe she really was becoming paranoid. Maybe the doctor was right about the obsession, about the psychotic condition. Sane people don't do that. They don't set up hidden cameras to watch their own husband. But she needed to know. She needed an answer. Even if the answer proved she was completely insane. The first few days showed nothing. The camera recorded her coming and going, Greg working on his laptop, the two of them watching TV at night. Life was normal. Megan began to feel ridiculous. She had spent money, invaded her husband's privacy, all for nothing. But on the 5th night, something happened. Megan was in her bedroom changing after work. Greg had gotten home before her, as usual. She'd left her purse on the coffee table in the living room. She distinctly remembered taking her wallet out of it and putting it next to it because she needed to get a receipt to check later. When she returned to the living room 15 minutes later, the wallet was no longer next to her purse. It was back inside her purse, hidden in the inside pocket. "Greg, did you go through my wallet?" He looked from the kitchen, where he was making coffee. "Your wallet? No. Why?" "I had left it outside and now it's in the bag." He sighed, that tired sigh she hated. "Megan, you probably put it back without realizing it. Automatic." But she hadn't. She was sure. And this time, she had proof. That night, after Greg fell asleep, she went to the living room with her phone. Her hands were shaking as she opened the camera app and searched for footage from that time. She fast-forwarded to the moment she had left the living room to go change in her bedroom. The recording showed the room empty, her purse on the coffee table, her wallet next to it. Everything was exactly as she remembered. Then, about 3 minutes later, Greg entered the room. He glanced around, as if checking for anyone nearby. Then he picked up the wallet. Megan's heart raced. He took her wallet. He opened her purse. He put the wallet inside, in the inside pocket. He closed the purse, and he left the room as if nothing had happened. She had to pause the video. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped her phone. She went back and watched it again, and again, and again. It wasn't her imagination. It wasn't her brain fog. It was there, recorded, real. Greg had taken her wallet and hidden it inside her purse. On purpose. Her breathing became labored. Her chest tightened. She sat on the living room floor, still holding her phone, trying to process what she'd just seen. This meant all the other times had been him, too. The keys, the earrings, the documents, everything. He was moving things around. He was making her think she was going crazy. But why? It didn't make sense. Greg was her husband. They'd been together for 7 years. He loved her. Or at least, she always thought he did. Why would anyone do that to someone they loved? She returned to the room in shock. Greg was sleeping in the same position, breathing evenly. She lay rigid beside him, staring at the ceiling in the darkness. The man beside her, snoring softly, who had held her hand at the doctor's, who had said he was worried, had spent months making her doubt her own sanity. Anger came. Strong. Burning. She wanted to wake him, show him the video, scream, demand explanations. She wanted to shake him until he told the truth, until he told her why he was doing this. But something held her back, an instinct. If she confronted him now, without thinking, without planning, what would happen? He would deny it. He would say she edited the video, that she was delusional, that this was proof she urgently needed a psychiatrist. He would turn everything against her again, and this time, with the doctor's suggestion of a psychological evaluation, it would be even easier. No. She needed to be smart. She needed more evidence. She needed to understand what was happening before acting. And above all, she needed to protect herself. Megan spent the rest of the night awake, planning. The camera would stay where it was. She would continue acting normal, as if she knew nothing. She would let him continue to think he was manipulating her, And in the meantime, she would collect more evidence, more videos, more evidence. Because now she knew the truth. She wasn't crazy. She never had been. And whoever the man sleeping next to her was, he wasn't the person she thought she knew. He was a stranger. A dangerous stranger. And she needed to find out exactly what he was planning before it was too late. Over the next 2 weeks, Megan collected more evidence. The camera captured Greg moving objects 3 times. He took the TV remote and put it in the kitchen cabinet. He took a book she was reading and hid it behind the sofa. He moved the wall clock while she was in the shower, always with the same care, always looking around first, checking to see if she was nearby. Each video was a stab in the back. Each piece of evidence confirmed what she already knew, but still struggled to accept. The man she had married was purposefully destroying her sanity, and he did it with frightening calm, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. But the video alone wasn't enough. Megan needed to understand what was happening. She needed a name for it. So she began researching. She spent hours at work during her lunch break, locked in an empty room, scrolling through her phone. Psychological manipulation, emotional abuse, mind control. That's when he found the word gaslighting. She read the definition and felt as if someone had turned on a light in a dark room. Gaslighting was a form of psychological abuse where the abuser manipulates the victim into doubting their own perception of reality, their own memory, their own sanity. The term came from an old movie where a husband manipulated his wife in exactly this way. Megan read article after article. Each description seemed to tell her story. The abuser moves objects and denies it. He claims the victim is forgetful, confused, and sick. He isolates the victim from friends and family. He makes everyone believe the victim is mentally unstable. And in the end, the victim truly begins to doubt themselves, loses confidence, and becomes dependent on the abuser. That's exactly what Greg was doing. Every step, every movement, every word calculated. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't concern. It was abuse, planned and executed with precision. The tears came. Megan locked the living room door and cried silently, holding her phone with trembling hands. 7 years of marriage. 7 years believing they were happy, that they loved each other, that they were building a life together. And it was all a lie. Or at least, it had become a lie somewhere. When did it start? How long had he been doing this? Months. Years. She continued researching. She discovered that gaslighting almost always had a motive. Control. Power. Sometimes money. Sometimes it was preparation for an advantageous divorce, where the abuser wanted to prove the victim was unstable in order to retain assets or custody of children. Sometimes it was simply the sick pleasure of having power over another person. Megan and Greg didn't have children. They didn't have many assets. The house was rented. They had a joint account, but nothing significant. So what did he want? Just control. Just to see her small, dependent, broke. The answer didn't matter as much as what she needed to do now, because one thing was very clear from all the research. Gaslighting victims shouldn't confront their abuser directly. The abuser will deny it, manipulate further, and turn everything against the victim. And in extreme cases, it can become violent. Megan had never seen Greg be violent, but she had also never imagined he would be capable of what he was doing. She didn't know this man anymore. She didn't know what he was capable of. I needed a plan, an exit plan. All the sources said the same thing. The victim needs to leave. They need to get away from the abuser, but they need to do it safely, planning every step. Megan started slowly. She opened a new bank account at a different bank, in her own name. She transferred a little money from the joint account every month. Small amounts Greg wouldn't notice. $100 here, $50 there. Saving little by little, emergency money. She changed her passwords for everything. Email, social media, apps. Greg had never asked for these passwords, but she didn't want to risk it. She saved copies of important documents in a digital folder in the cloud. Passport, birth certificate, driver's license. Everything was digitized and stored where only she could access it. At home, she continued to act normal, or tried to. She responded when Greg asked how her day had been. She smiled when he told her something funny. She watched TV with him at night, but inside, she was screaming. She was pulling away, creating a wall between them that he couldn't see. The hardest part was at night, lying next to him in bed. Megan would stiffen, trying not to touch, trying not to move too much. Every time he touched her, put his hand on her shoulder, or pulled her close, she felt goosebumps crawl. Not with love, with fear, with disgust. How had she slept next to this man for so long without knowing who he really was? How had she kissed him, made love to him, planned a future with him? The person she loved never existed. It was a mask, and beneath that mask was a stranger who enjoyed watching her suffer. Greg noticed something was different. Of course he did. She wasn't a good actress. He started asking if everything was okay, if she was mad at him, if he'd done something wrong. The irony was almost funny. Yes, he had done something wrong. He'd done a lot of things wrong. But she just shook her head and said she was tired. That was all. "Did you make an appointment with the psychiatrist Dr. Harrison recommended?" he asked at a dinner party. "Not yet. I'm waiting for a better time." "Honey, don't put it off. The sooner you start treatment, the better." The concern in his voice was so fake that Megan wanted to throw the plate in his face. "I know. I'll call tomorrow." She wasn't going to care. She didn't need a psychiatrist. She wasn't sick. But she let him believe she would. She let him continue thinking his plan was working. Because while he thought he had control, she was planning her exit. But Megan knew she couldn't do this alone. She needed help. She needed someone who believed in her, who supported her, who would help her get out of this situation safely. And there was only one person she could trust completely. Amy, her best friend since college. The only person who'd kept calling even when everyone else had drifted away. The only one who never treated her like she was crazy. It was time to tell the truth and ask for help. Megan arranged to meet Amy at a coffee shop on the other side of town. Far from home, far from work, far from anywhere Greg might show up. She told him she was going shopping and would be back late. He didn't even question it. Amy was already waiting when Megan arrived. She was 36, with short brown hair, and worked as a nurse in a hospital. They'd been friends for 15 years, since college. Amy knew Megan better than anyone, or at least she knew who Megan was before all this started. "Hi. It's been a while since we've seen each other like this, just the two of us." Amy hugged her tightly. When she pulled away, she looked at Megan's face and her expression changed. "What's wrong? What happened?" Megan sat down, her hands shaking. She didn't even know where to begin. "I need to show you something. But you have to promise to listen to me until the end, without interrupting me, without thinking I'm crazy. Megan, you're scaring me. Promise. I promise." Megan took out her phone and opened the hidden camera videos. She handed the phone to Amy. "Watch." Amy watched the first video, frowning, confused at first, then shocked. She looked at Megan, then back at the video. She watched the other 3 videos Megan had saved. When she finished, she slowly placed her phone on the table, as if carrying something dangerous. "Is Greg doing this? Moving your stuff on purpose?" "Yes, for months, making me believe I was going crazy." "But why? That doesn't make sense." Megan told him everything. The missing items, the accusations that she was forgetful, the doctor's visit, the suggestion of a psychiatrist, the isolation from friends, everything. He talked about gaslighting, about psychological abuse, about how he'd discovered what was happening. Amy listened without interrupting, as she'd promised, but her eyes filled with tears. "Oh my God, Megan, I didn't know. I thought you were really stressed, confused. I believed him when he said he was worried about you." Her voice broke. "I'm sorry, I should have known. Nobody noticed. He's good at it. Very good. What are you going to do?" "I'm leaving, but I need to do this right. I need help." Megan took Amy's hand. "Can you help me?" "Sure. Anything. What do you need?" They spent the next 2 hours planning, Amy offered up the guest room in her house. Megan could stay there as long as she needed. They set a specific day for the move, a Tuesday, when Greg had an important all-day meeting with a client. Megan would take the opportunity to pack her things and leave. "Don't take much, just the essentials," Amy advised. "Clothes, documents, important personal items. You can buy the rest later or pick it up with a police escort if necessary." "Police escort? Megan, you don't know this man anymore. You don't know what he's capable of. When he finds out you've left, he might react badly, very badly." Fear set in. Megan had never thought of it like this. Greg getting violent. Greg doing something worse than he already was. "Do you think he'd do something to me?" "I don't know. But we can't risk it. You'll leave when he's not home. You'll leave a letter saying you need some time, that you're staying at a friend's house, but without saying which friend or where. You won't have direct contact with him for at least a few days. And if he shows up at your work or tries to look for you, you'll call the police." It was scary to think about, needing protection from her own husband. But Amy was right. Megan didn't know what Greg was capable of, and she couldn't risk finding out the hard way. "You need to keep these videos somewhere safe," Amy continued. "Send them to me too, and someone else you trust. If something happens, you need proof of what he did." "Do you think I should go to the police now?" Amy thought. Gaslighting is abuse, but it's hard to prove legally, and the police don't always take it seriously. But after you leave, you can file a police report, have it documented. It might help if you need a restraining order later. It all seemed surreal. Restraining order, police report, police escort. How had her life gotten to this point? How had her marriage turned into this? "I'm scared," Megan admitted, her voice weak. "I know, but you're strong, stronger than you think. You figured out what he was doing. You've collected evidence. You're planning your way out. Many women never make it." Amy took both of her hands in hers. "You'll do it, and I'll be with you every step of the way." Megan felt the tears well up. For the first time in months, they weren't tears of despair or confusion. They were tears of relief, of hope. She wasn't alone. She had someone on her side, someone who believed in her. "Thank you for everything." "No need to thank me. That's what friends are for." They finalized the details. Amy would prepare the room. Megan would make a discreet list of what she needed to bring. They would keep in touch through discreet messages without arousing suspicion. And the following Tuesday, Megan would take the first step toward freedom. As she left the coffee shop, Megan felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Determination. Greg had spent months trying to break her, to make her feel small, incapable, sick. But he couldn't. She was standing. She was fighting. And she was going to get through this. He just didn't imagine how difficult it would be. And when he found out she knew the truth, the mask would fall completely. Before you continue, think about one thing. How many people around you might be going through something similar without you knowing? Sometimes the person who needs help the most is the one who smiles and says everything's okay. Stay tuned. And if you know someone in this situation, be their Amy. Let me know in the comments if you've ever been through something like this or know someone who has. Everything was planned for Tuesday, but Greg found out first. It was Sunday night. Megan was in the bathroom brushing her teeth when she heard a noise in the bedroom. Something falling. When she came out, Greg was holding her phone, the phone she'd left charging on the nightstand. The screen was lit. He was looking at her. "What is this?" His voice was strange, too calm. Cold. Megan's stomach dropped. She'd forgotten to turn off the camera app. It was open, showing the room live. Greg had seen it. "Give me back my cell phone." "Is that a camera? You put a camera in our living room?" He started scrolling through the app. He found the saved videos. Megan saw the exact moment he watched them. She saw him picking up the objects, moving them, hiding them. His expression changed. It became hard, scary. "You were spying on me. I needed to know what was going on." Her voice came out firmer than she expected. "I needed proof. Evidence?" He gave a dry, humorless laugh. "Evidence of what, Megan? That I went through your things?" That you were making me believe I was going crazy? On purpose? For months? I was trying to help you. Help! You moved my things, made me doubt my memory, convinced everyone I was sick. That's not help. It's abuse. It's called gaslighting. The word hung in the air between them. Greg stood still holding her phone. Then he tossed it onto the bed. Gaslighting, he repeated, as if testing the sound of the word. You've been researching, reading things on the internet, filling your head with ideas. These aren't ideas. It's what you did. It's in the videos. I have proof. Proof. He ran his hand through his hair, began pacing the room. But you don't understand anything, Megan. Nothing. I was trying to protect you. Protect me from what? Of yourself. You were becoming obsessed, paranoid. Those notes, those photos, you were losing control. I was just trying to make you see that you needed help. His logic was so twisted that Megan almost laughed. He had created the problem and now claimed to be trying to solve it. You made me believe I was going crazy. Because you were. You are. Look what you did. You set up hidden cameras to watch me. Is that the behavior of a sane person? I put the camera on because I knew something was wrong, and I was right. Greg stopped walking. He turned to her, and for the first time, Megan saw something different in his face. The mask was slipping. You've always been like this. Always needed to control everything. Always thought you were better than everyone else. That you knew better. I just wish you were more humble, more dependent, more grateful for someone to care for you. There it was. The truth finally coming out. He wanted her small, weak, dependent on him because it made him feel big, powerful, important. I'm leaving. Now. No, you're not. Yes, I am. I'm going to pack my things and leave this house, this marriage, you. His expression changed again. It was almost pleading. He took a step toward her. Megan, wait. We can work this out. We can talk. I know I made mistakes, but it was because I love you. Because I was worried. Don't call it love. What you did wasn't love. Yes, it was. Everything I did was for love. To keep you safe. To keep you with me. His voice was rising. You can't leave. You can't leave me. I won't allow it. You have no choice. He stepped forward, gripping her arms. Tight. Too tight. I've always been in control here. You just didn't see it. And if you try to leave me, I'll tell everyone you're having a breakdown, that you tried to attack me, that you're delusional. I'll take those videos and delete them, and it'll be my word against yours. And guess who everyone will believe? The worried husband or the crazy wife who plants hidden cameras in her own house. Megan felt a chill run down her spine. He was right. He'd spent months building this narrative. Everyone already thought she was unstable. If he told her she'd had a meltdown, attacked him, or was delusional, people would believe him. But she had Amy. She had copies of the videos she'd sent. She had the secret bank account. She had a plan. Let me go. Not until you promise not to go anywhere, that you'll forget these crazy ideas and accept the help you need. Let me go now. Her voice was so firm, so strong, that Greg blinked in surprise. She pulled her arms away and pulled away. She grabbed her phone from the bed. I've already sent copies of these videos to other people. If you touch me, if you try to stop me from leaving, if you do anything, everyone will see what you really are. The mask fell completely then. His face turned red. His hands clenched into fists. You shouldn't have done that. But I did. And I'm not going to stay here another second. You're not going to stop me. They stood there, staring at each other. Two strangers, because that's what they were. Megan had never met the real man standing before her. She had married an illusion, a mask. Greg took a step back. The anger was still there, but he was controlling himself, calculating. Fine. If that's what you want, go away. But don't think it's going to be easy. Don't think you'll get away with this. I'll let everyone know what kind of person you are. I'll tell them everything. The cameras, the paranoia, everything. You'll regret this. Maybe. But at least I'll be free of you. Megan left the bedroom and went to the living room. She grabbed her purse, her keys, and her coat. Greg didn't try to stop her. He just stood in the bedroom doorway, watching. She called Amy. "Can you come get me?" "Now. I'm leaving now." Megan waited on the sidewalk, far from the house. She was shaking, but not from the cold, from shock, from fear, from relief. When Amy arrived, she got into the car and broke down. She cried everything she'd been holding in. And Amy drove, her free hand holding Megan's. "It's over. You're safe now." But they both knew it wasn't completely over. Greg was still there. He was still a threat. He could still do harm. But at least Megan had made the first move. She had left. And nothing, absolutely nothing, would be worse than staying. The first few days at Amy's house were strange. Megan would wake up in the middle of the night, confused, unsure of where she was. Then she'd remember. She was safe. She was away from Greg, and she'd go back to sleep. But her sleep was never peaceful. Amy was amazing. She gave Megan space when she needed to be alone. She talked when she needed to talk. She cooked comforting meals and didn't judge when Megan could barely eat. For the first 3 days, Megan basically stayed in the guest room, processing everything that had happened. Greg called 17 times the first day. He sent messages. Some were angry, accusing her of being crazy, of ruining the marriage, of being ungrateful. Others were pleading, begging her to come back, saying he was sorry, that he could change. Megan didn't respond to any of them. She blocked his number on the second day. He showed up at her work on Thursday. Megan was leaving school when she saw him standing near her car. Her heart raced. She stopped on the sidewalk, unsure of what to do. He saw her and started walking toward her. "Megan, wait. I just want to talk." She grabbed her cell phone, ready to call the police. "Don't come near me. I just want to talk. 5 minutes. Please." There were other people leaving the school. Teachers, students, parents. Greg wasn't going to do anything there, in front of everyone. But even so, Megan kept her distance. "We have nothing to talk about." "Yes, we do. About our marriage, about us. I know I made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can go to couples therapy. We can start over." His audacity was impressive. After everything I'd done, I still thought I could fix it with couples therapy. There's no therapy, Greg. There's no starting over. It's over. You can't just give up 7 years of marriage like that. It's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fairness?" Her voice rose. "You spent months making me believe I was going crazy. You isolated me from everyone. You manipulated me, and now you want to talk about fairness?" People started staring. Greg noticed. He lowered his voice, trying to sound calm, reasonable. "Megan, you're overreacting. You're seeing things that aren't there. I was trying to help you. If you come home, we can talk calmly, work this out like adults. I'm not coming back. And if you ever show up near me again, I'm going to the police." She turned and walked back into the school. She asked one of the security guards to walk her to her car. Greg was still there, standing there, watching. But he didn't try to approach her again. He just watched as she got into her car and drove out of the parking lot. That night, Amy convinced her to go to the police station to file a report. They went together. The responding officer was polite, but Megan saw the skepticism in his eyes when she explained the gaslighting. "So your husband moved objects around the house, and you think that's a crime? It's psychological abuse. I have videos to prove it." He watched the videos. He made some notes. But Megan knew he wasn't taking it seriously. To him, it was just a couple fighting. Nothing serious. Nothing that warranted a restraining order. "Look, ma'am, I'm going to register it here. But honestly, I don't know if this will lead to anything. There was no physical assault. There was no direct threat. It's your word against his. He showed up at my work today. Even after I asked him to leave me alone." "Did he threaten you?" "No, but it made me uncomfortable." "I understand. Look, if he shows up again, if he makes any direct threats, you call us immediately. But for now, it's difficult to do more than that." Megan left the police station frustrated. No one understood. No one saw the danger. To everyone, Greg was just a disgruntled husband trying to win his wife back. No one saw what she had seen. The coldness in his eyes, the control, the pleasure he took in manipulating her. In the days that followed, Megan began rebuilding her life. She sought out a lawyer to begin divorce proceedings. It was expensive, but she had the money she'd saved. The lawyer, a woman named Jennifer, was the first person who truly understood. I've seen cases like this. Gaslighting is more common than people think, and it's devastating, Jennifer explained. The good news is you have proof. The videos will be very helpful in your divorce. We'll make sure you get out of this situation safely and fairly. Megan also started therapy. Her therapist, Dr. Martinez, specialized in abuse victims. The sessions were difficult. Megan had to relive everything, process everything, understand everything. Some days, she left the sessions crying, exhausted. But little by little, she began to feel like she was recovering pieces of herself she had lost. The hardest part was facing her family and friends. Many didn't understand. Her mother was torn, wanting to support her daughter, but also thinking it might be rash. Her sister was more direct. Megan, are you sure about this? 7 years of marriage. Maybe you just need some time, some space to think. Katie, he manipulated me for months, on purpose. I have proof. I know, but sometimes marriage is complicated. People do things without thinking. Maybe he really thought he was helping you. It was useless. People who hadn't been through it couldn't understand. They couldn't see how it tore a person apart inside. But some people understood. Amy, of course. Jennifer, the lawyer. Dr. Martinez. And to Megan's surprise, other women began to come forward. When she shared her story in a support group her therapist recommended, 3 women identified with her. They had been through similar things. One had been victimized by her ex-boyfriend, another by her own father, the third by her boss. Hearing these stories was painful, but also liberating. Megan wasn't alone. She wasn't the only one, and they were all struggling, rebuilding, surviving. A month after leaving home, Megan was better, not cured, not completely. I still woke up with nightmares. I still looked over my shoulder when I went outside. I still checked doors 3 times before bed. But I was better. He was beginning to recognize himself in the mirror again. He was beginning to trust his own memory. He was beginning to believe he deserved better than what he'd gotten. And she was beginning to understand that strength wasn't about never falling. Strength was about getting up after falling. It was about looking at what she'd been through and deciding that it wouldn't define her, that she was more than a victim. She was a survivor. And survivors don't give up. They fight, they rebuild, and they help others do the same. 6 months later, Megan found herself in a small apartment, but it was hers, totally hers. No reminders of Greg on the walls, no objects he'd touched, no shared spaces where she had to tiptoe. It was a real beginning, a fresh start. The divorce had been finalized. Greg tried to make things difficult, of course. He contested everything. He claimed she had abandoned the marriage, that she had mental health issues, that she had been unstable. But the videos spoke louder. Jennifer was brilliant. She presented everything clearly, and the judge understood. Greg couldn't manipulate the justice system the way he had manipulated her. Megan got half of everything. It wasn't much, but it was fair. And most importantly, she was free legally, officially, completely free of him. Greg tried to contact her a few times after the divorce. Messages from unknown numbers, emails from new accounts, always the same thing, apologizing, telling her she'd misunderstood, that he still loved her, that he could change. Megan deleted everything without responding. He didn't deserve even a second of her attention. The therapy continued. Dr. Martinez helped her process not only the trauma of what Greg had done, but also rebuild the self-esteem he had destroyed. It was hard work. There were sessions where Megan cried from beginning to end. There were days when she wanted to give up, when she thought she would never feel normal again. But there were also moments of clarity. Moments where she saw patterns she hadn't seen before. How she had become smaller in the marriage. How he had set aside dreams and ambitions to accommodate Greg. How I had accepted crumbs of affection and called them love. "You're not going back to who you were before," Dr. Martinez said in a session. "And that's okay. You're going to become someone new, someone stronger, someone who knows how to set boundaries, someone who doesn't settle for less than they deserve." And that's exactly what happened. Megan began setting boundaries in every area of her life. At work, when her director tried to overload her with extra tasks, she said no. With her family, when her mother pressured her to give Greg a chance, she stood firm. With friends, when someone minimized what she'd been through, she walked away. She learned that she didn't need everyone's approval, that it was okay for people to not understand, that her opinion about her own life was the only one that truly mattered. Friendships changed. Some people drifted away. They couldn't handle the new Megan, the one with a voice, the one who didn't accept empty excuses. But other friendships grew stronger. Amy remained her rock, and new friendships emerged, especially in the support group. It was there that Megan found her purpose. Hearing other women share similar stories, seeing the pain and confusion in their eyes, she realized she could help. She started slowly, sharing her story when she felt comfortable, offering a coffee to chat with someone, beginning the journey of leaving an abusive relationship. It wasn't anything grand. They were simple conversations. A text message asking how someone was doing. A hug when someone came to the group crying. Small gestures that made a difference because she knew exactly what it was like to be in that dark place, not knowing if there was a way out. And it healed her, too. Every time she helped someone see they weren't alone, Megan felt a little more whole, a little stronger. Megan also started dating again. Slowly, afraid at first. The first date was terrible. She was tense, hyper-vigilant, searching for signs of manipulation in every word. But gradually, with therapy and patience, she learned to trust again. Not blindly, not naively, but in a healthy way, with clear boundaries and wide-open eyes. She met good people. People who respected her space, who listened when she said no, who celebrated her achievements instead of feeling threatened. And she realized that this was the norm, that a healthy relationship didn't hurt, didn't confuse, didn't make her doubt herself. On the 2-year anniversary of leaving home, Megan threw a small party at her apartment. Amy was there, of course. A few friends from her support group, her therapist, her lawyer, all the women who had held her hand throughout her journey. "I want to make a toast." Megan raised her glass. "To all of us, to the women who fell and got back up, to those who had the courage to walk away, to those who had the courage to start over, and to those who used their pain to help others not feel the same pain. We are stronger than anything they tried to do to us, and nothing, absolutely nothing, can take that away from us." The women toasted. Some cried. Others laughed. They all felt the same thing: pride, strength, freedom. Megan looked around her apartment, filled with people who genuinely cared about her, who supported her, who celebrated who she was. And she realized she had arrived. Not at the end of the journey never truly ends. But she had arrived at a place of peace, of self-knowledge, of self-love. Greg had tried to extinguish her light, but all he managed to do was make it shine brighter. And now, that light was illuminating the path for other women to find their way out of the darkness, and that, in the end, was the best revenge. Not anger, not hate, but transformation, healing, and the decision to never let anyone make her feel small again. Because Megan had learned the most important lesson of all. She was always strong. She just needed to remember that. Megan's story teaches us something many people need to hear. Abuse isn't just physical. It doesn't have to leave marks on the body to destroy a person. Sometimes the deepest scars are the ones no one sees, the ones that remain in the mind, in the heart, in the way a person comes to see themselves. Gaslighting is real. It happens every day, in seemingly normal homes, to seemingly happy people. And the victim often doesn't even know they're being manipulated until they're completely lost. doubting their own sanity. But Megan's story also teaches something else, that it is possible to get out, that it is possible to recover, that it is possible to rebuild a life after everything falls apart. It's not easy, it's not quick, but it is possible. If you're going through something similar, know this: you're not crazy, you're not overreacting, you're not alone, and you deserve better. You deserve to be treated with respect. You deserve to trust your own memory. You deserve to live without fear. And if you know someone who might be going through this, pay attention. Be their Amy. Believe them when they tell you. Support them when they decide to leave. Because sometimes, all a person needs is someone to say, "I believe in you." Megan's life changed completely. She lost a marriage, but gained herself back. And in the end, it was the best trade she could have made. Now tell me, what did you learn from Megan's story? Do you know anyone who might be going through something similar? Leave a comment. And if this story touched you in any way, like the video, subscribe to the channel using the subscribe button or the QR code that appears on your screen, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss more moving stories like this.